I just wanted a quiet walk in the woods, but everything changed when I met a tall and mysterious stranger. I had an unspoken desire to explore his presence, but just as my feelings deepened, secrets from Michael's past threatened to pull us apart. I wasn't planning on going deep into the woods that day. At 63, I'd grown to appreciate the simple pleasures in life, quiet walks, nature, and the solitude that comes with being away from the noise of the world. The air was crisp, the sky a brilliant blue, and the tall trees offered shade as I strolled through the forest. It was peaceful, the kind of peace I craved. But as I wandered further into the woods, something happened that I could never have anticipated, something that would change everything. I had just rounded a bend when I saw him, a tall, dark figure leaning against a tree. He was striking, with broad shoulders and a strong frame that seemed to dominate the space around him. His eyes met mine, and there was something about the way he looked at me. He wasn't like anyone I'd ever encountered before. There was an intensity in his gaze, something both powerful and gentle, and it stopped me in my tracks. "Didn't expect to run into anyone out here," he said, his voice deep and smooth, with a hint of amusement. I managed to smile, but my heart was already racing. Neither did I. We stood there for a moment, the silence between us thick with tension. I could feel my pulse quicken and a warmth spread through me that I hadn't felt in years. There was something about him, something magnetic, something that drew me in despite the little voice in my head that told me to be cautious. But caution seemed far away now as his gaze never left mine, and I found myself taking a small step closer. "Mind if I join you?" he asked, his lips curving into a smile that was both warm and confident. I hesitated for only a second before nodding, surprised at how much I wanted his company. Sure, why not? We walked together, side by side, our footsteps almost in sync as we moved deeper into the woods. The air seemed to change, become thicker, more intimate. The conversation was easy, light at first, but there was an underlying current between us that couldn't be ignored. Every now and then, our arms would brush against each other, sending a spark through me that I couldn't explain. I felt alive in a way I hadn't in years, and the more time I spent with him, the more I realized I didn't want this walk to end. We reached a small clearing, the sunlight streaming through the trees, casting a golden glow over everything. He stopped, turning to face me, and I could feel the shift in the air, the way everything seemed to slow down. His eyes were locked on mine, and I could see the desire there, the way his gaze darkened, filled with a hunger that made my breath catch in my throat. "You're different," he said softly, his voice low and intimate. "There's something about you." I swallowed hard, feeling the tension building between us. "I could say the same about you." He stepped closer, his hand reaching out to brush a strand of hair from my face. His touch was gentle yet deliberate. "If you enjoyed this video, consider liking my video." The moment his fingers grazed my skin, it was like electricity coursed through me, and I felt my body respond in ways I hadn't expected. There was something so raw, so powerful about the way he looked at me, the way he touched me, and I knew without a doubt that we were crossing into dangerous territory. But I didn't care. I didn't want to stop. His hand slid down, resting lightly on my arm, his thumb stroking my skin as he moved even closer. I could feel the heat of his body, the way he towered over me, and it sent a rush of desire through me that was impossible to ignore. My breath quickened, and I could feel my heart racing, my pulse pounding in my ears. "You're beautiful," he murmured, his lips so close to mine now that I could feel the warmth of his breath. "I've never met anyone like you." His words made my heart race even faster, and before I could respond, his lips were on mine, soft at first, testing, teasing. I gasped at the sensation, at the way his mouth moved against mine, slow and deliberate, as though he were savoring every moment. His kiss deepened, and I felt his hand slide down my back, pulling me closer until there was no space left between us. I melted into him, my body responding to his touch, my hands sliding up his chest, feeling the hard muscles beneath his shirt. He was so strong, so solid, and the way he held me made me feel small and safe, but also alive with desire. His hands moved lower, resting on my hips as he pulled me even closer, and I could feel the warmth radiating from him, the way his body pressed against mine. The kiss grew more intense, more urgent, and I found myself losing control. My hands moved up to his neck, pulling him even closer, deepening the kiss as my body trembled with need. His touch was electric, sending waves of pleasure through me with every caress, and I felt a warmth building inside me, a fire that I hadn't felt in years. His hands slid under my shirt, his fingers grazing my bare skin, and I gasped at the sensation, my body arching into him as I craved more of his touch. He seemed to sense my need, his hands moving higher, exploring my body with a tenderness that made my heart race even faster. Every touch, every kiss, felt like a new discovery, and I was lost in the sensation of him, lost in the way he made me feel. He pulled back for a moment, his eyes dark with desire, and I could see the way his chest rose and fell, his breath coming in short, shallow bursts. Help me reach my first 1,000 subscribers. Your support is what makes this journey possible, so don't forget to subscribe. I could feel the same heat between us, the same tension, and I knew that we were both on the edge, both ready to give in to the overwhelming desire that had been building between us. I want to know you, he whispered, his voice rough with need. I want to understand everything about you. His words sent a shiver through me, and I nodded, unable to find the words to respond. I wanted him to know me too, more than I had ever wanted anything before. His hands moved to my waist, his fingers warm and gentle as they explored my body. My breath came in ragged gasps as he continued to touch me, his hands moving with a skill that made my head spin. I could feel the heat building inside me, the tension growing stronger with every passing second, and I knew that I was close, so close to losing control. But I didn't want to stop. I didn't want this to end. His hands moved lower, and I felt a jolt of excitement course through me as he touched me, his fingers teasing, exploring, driving me wild with anticipation. I could feel my body responding to him, every nerve ending alive with sensation, and I could barely contain the gasp that escaped my lips as he continued to touch me, pushing me closer and closer to the edge. He pulled me closer then, his hands gripping my waist as he lifted me slightly, his body pressing against mine in a way that made my heart race even faster. I could feel him, strong and ready, and it sent a rush of desire through me that was almost too much to bear. You're incredible, he murmured, his voice thick with emotion, as he kissed me again, his lips moving down my neck, trailing kisses along my collarbone. His hands were everywhere, on my back, my waist, my sides, and I could feel the heat building between us, the tension reaching a breaking point. And then, finally, we found ourselves lost in the moment. The sensation was overwhelming, a rush of connection that took my breath away. I gasped, my hands gripping his shoulders as we moved together, our bodies perfectly in sync. The heat between us was unbearable, the connection growing stronger with every movement, and I could feel myself losing control, giving in to the overwhelming sensation of being with him. We moved together, our bodies fitting seamlessly, and I could feel the tension building, the connection growing deeper with every passing second. His hands gripped my waist, guiding my movements as we continued to explore this newfound intimacy, my breath coming in short, ragged gasps as the connection built to an almost unbearable level. Every moment, every touch sent a wave of warmth through me, and I could feel the heat between us growing stronger, the connection building to a breaking point. I was so close to losing myself in this moment, and I could feel him right there with me, his breath hot against my neck as we moved together, driving each other higher and higher into the bliss that seemed to consume us completely. He wasn't far behind, his body tensing, his breath coming in short, shallow bursts as he found his own release, the connection overwhelming him as we collapsed against each other, our bodies spent, our breath mingling as we tried to catch our breath. We stayed like that for a moment, our bodies still entwined, our hearts racing as we tried to process what had just happened. When it was over, we lay there in the clearing, the sunlight streaming down on us, our bodies still close together. I could feel his heartbeat against mine, the warmth of his skin against my own, and I knew that something had changed, something deep, something that couldn't be undone. As the sunlight filtered through the branches above, I sat up, still close to him, our foreheads almost touching. "What now?" I asked, a mix of excitement and uncertainty in my voice. I had never imagined I would find someone like him in such an unexpected place, and yet here we were, tangled together in a way that felt utterly right. His smile broadened, revealing a sense of mischief that made my heart flutter. "Well, I'd like to know more about you, CL. I want to hear your stories, your dreams, everything." I felt a rush of warmth at the sincerity in his voice. "I could say the same about you. What brought you out here today?" He paused, his expression thoughtful. "I needed an escape, I suppose. Life has been complicated lately. I needed to reconnect with something real, something raw, and I found it in you." I could see the vulnerability in his eyes, and it struck a chord deep within me. "I understand," I said gently, reaching out to entwine my fingers with his. "Life can often feel overwhelming. Sometimes we just need to step away and breathe for a moment." We simply held each other's gaze, and I felt as if we were sharing something sacred. It was as if the universe had conspired to bring us together, two souls adrift in the world, finding solace in one another. "Can we stay here for a little longer?" he asked, his voice almost a whisper. "I don't want to rush back into reality just yet." I nodded, a smile tugging at my lips. "I'd like that." We settled back down, our bodies fitting together perfectly as we shared stories, each tale unfolding like the petals of a blooming flower. He told me about his life, the highs and lows, the moments that shaped him into the man he was. I spoke of my own journey, of love lost and the loneliness that crept in when I wasn't looking. With each word, the bond between us deepened, weaving a tapestry of intimacy that felt both fragile and unbreakable. The air was thick with the scent of pine and wildflowers, and every now and then the wind would carry the sound of distant birdsong, a perfect backdrop to our exchange. After what felt like hours, he leaned closer, his eyes reflecting the golden light of the setting sun. "I have to be honest. I've never felt this way before. It's like I've known you forever." I could feel my heart race at his confession, a mix of excitement and trepidation flooding through me. "I feel the same, but what does this mean for us?" He took a deep breath, searching my eyes for understanding. "I don't know what the future holds, but I do know I want to explore this connection. I want to see where it leads." A surge of hope filled me, and I smiled, feeling a sense of possibility bloom in my chest. "I'd like that too. I've spent so long focusing on what I thought I wanted that I forgot to leave room for the unexpected." He grinned, his expression brightening as if my words had ignited a spark within him. "Let's not overthink it then. Let's just enjoy this moment and see where it takes us." With that, he leaned in again, capturing my lips in a kiss that felt like the promise of new beginnings. It was tender yet passionate, a perfect blend of our desires and hopes, and I lost myself in the warmth of it. My fingers threaded through his hair as I deepened the kiss, feeling the world around us dissolve into nothingness. As we finally pulled away, breathless and smiling, I knew that this day would forever mark a turning point in my life. The encounter with Michael had opened a door I never knew existed, leading me toward a path of new possibilities and rediscovery. With the sun sinking lower on the horizon, casting a warm glow over the clearing, I realized that the woods had offered me much more than solitude. They had gifted me a chance at love, a chance to embrace the unexpected. And as I looked into his eyes, I knew I was ready to take that chance, ready to explore the beautiful, tangled path that lay ahead. The world around us faded away, leaving just the two of us wrapped in the afterglow of an experience that felt both extraordinary and surreal. As the sun streamed through the trees, casting dappled patterns on the forest floor, I turned my head slightly to meet his gaze. His eyes, still bright with the remnants of our connection, held a softness that took my breath away. It was as if he could see straight into my soul, unearthing feelings I had buried for years. In that moment, I realized it wasn't just a fleeting attraction that sparked between us. There was a connection that transcended the confines of our encounter. "You've turned my world upside down," he murmured, his voice low and tinged with wonder. "I didn't expect this today, or ever, really." I smiled softly, feeling a warmth spread through my chest at his words. "Neither did I. I was just looking for a quiet walk, and then you appeared." He chuckled, a deep, rich sound that reverberated through the clearing. "I suppose we both wandered further than we intended." We lay there, our bodies still close, savoring the lingering warmth of our shared moment. The gentle breeze rustled the leaves above us, and for a moment, it felt like the world outside had ceased to exist. I reached up, brushing my fingers against his jaw, marveling at the stubble beneath my fingertips. He leaned into my touch, a smile playing on his lips, and I could see the way his eyes sparkled with a mixture of mischief and sincerity. A warmth blossomed within me at his words, and I couldn't shake the feeling that there was a reason for our meeting. The forest around us felt alive, as if it were in on our secret. Maybe we were meant to find each other, I said softly, wondering if perhaps fate had conspired to bring us together at this moment. It's funny how life works sometimes. He nodded, his expression thoughtful. It really is. Sometimes the most unexpected encounters can lead to the most meaningful connections. We shared a comfortable silence, the kind that felt rich with unspoken understanding. I could feel the sun beginning to dip lower in the sky, casting a warm glow over the clearing, and I knew that this moment was one I would cherish forever. "Do you think we could meet again?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. I turned to him, my heart racing at the thought. "I would like that very much." He smiled, a genuine, radiant smile that lit up his face. "Then let's make it happen. I want to explore this connection further, to see where it leads us." With that, we exchanged numbers, a simple act that felt monumental in the context of our encounter. As we stood to leave, I felt a sense of anticipation building within me, a thrill at the prospect of what lay ahead. As we walked back through the woods, side by side, I couldn't help but steal glances at him, my heart fluttering with excitement. The world around us seemed to fade away, leaving just the two of us in our own little bubble of possibility. When we finally reached the edge of the woods, I turned to him, my heart pounding. "Thank you for today. I didn't know I needed this until it happened." He took my hand, his grip warm and reassuring. "Thank you for being open to it. I think we both needed this." With one last lingering look, we parted ways, and as I walked away, I felt a sense of hope blooming within me. The woods had given me more than just a quiet walk. They had opened the door to a new chapter in my life, one filled with promise and the thrill of the unknown. And as I stepped back into the world, I knew that I was ready to embrace whatever came next.